Hello there, I'm Willy Wormhead and welcome to my channel. In today's tutorial, I'm going to talk to you about lateral braids. They are a technique that are most commonly associated with stranded colour work, but they don't just have to be used with stranded colour work. I have actually used them in a number of different hats, even in sideways ones, because they create really nice, strong architectural lines, which is something I'm rather fond of in design. And so they are multiple of uses. They're a single colour chain. They are different to a Latvian braid, so they can create this kind of nice distinctive effect that's really striking. Now, the example I'm showing you today is a stranded colourwork hat, and this is the braid that runs along here. The brim is worked in corrugated ribbing, the rest of the hat in stranded colourwork. This is a collection I'm currently working on that's not published yet, so if you're watching this in the future, it may well be published, and if I remember, I'll update the links for the names, etc. But for now, this is a hat for the future. The lateral braid is worked in the same colour as the beginning of the brim because I like that kind of symmetry and that continuity there. Now, the braid is worked all the way across and it's done without casting off or casting on any stitches. It's done in one careful motion all the way throughout, which makes it much easier. You don't have to pick anything up, you don't have to cast anything off. It's great. And it's a nice, beautiful chain edge that can be used in lots of other ways, not just in colour work. Now, I'm not just going to show you how to do it today. I'm going to show you how to finish it when you're working in the round and create a really nice finish that minimizes the jog when you work it in the round. So you've got a nice continuous line that goes all the way around. It's really rather lovely. Now, I'll say this before I get stuck in to showing you the nitty-gritty of it. When I first learnt this technique years ago, I wasn't sure of its formal name or how it was commonly known. I did some research on it, and my first collection of stranded colourwork hats were the Imperceptions hats. Several of the hats used the braid. And I did some research and tried to find its formal name or how it was commonly known. And some people suggested it might be Estonian braid, but they weren't too sure. We knew it wasn't a Latvian braid. They might be called something else. And rather give it the wrong name and confuse things further, I called it the lateral braid in my patterns. I have since, because I name things literally and logically, I've since learnt that it is most likely the Estonian braid. So I'll now try and use those two names together. But if you see it mentioned as the lateral braid, that's the way that I've come to know it. And I named it that because I didn't want to confuse things or disrespect any other techniques. So I'm now going to switch to the overhead. I have a hat that's ready and waiting for its lateral braid, and let's get going and I'll show you how to do it. So then here I have is a brim that is ready to have its lateral braid worked onto it. I have done corrugated ribbing here. I started an alternate cable cast on, and I am going to work a lateral braid in the same colour that I started at the bottom of the brim with. Now, before I start to show you how to do that or do the prep, let's bring this other one over that I showed earlier. And let's have a little look at it there close up underneath the camera. Isn't that gorgeous? That beautiful chain worked horizontally around the hat really does make a nice distinctive feature. I've mirrored it with the edge down here because I like to do that. It can be worked on a number of different projects. It doesn't have to be stranded knitting, but it really is lovely. Now, the extra clever tip that I'm going to show you today is how to join it when you're working in the round so that it doesn't jog and it's almost seamless there when you finish it. Because this tutorial is showing you how to do the lateral braid in the round, not worked flat. You can do it flat, but you start it and finish it slightly differently, and I might do a separate tutorial for that. But I want to show you how to do it in the round today. So that's it there, finished, all done. And we're now going to have a look at this a little bit closer. Now, first thing that you need to do to prepare for the braid is to work a plain round of knit stitches in the colour that you're going to do your braid in. This is important because otherwise the contrast colour gets kind of like poking through. It starts poking through into the braid and you don't want that. This is a single colour braid. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, that single row is going to notice, please be sure that it doesn't, because I did exactly that in this hat here and you can't see it. The plain row actually becomes part of the braid, or rather the braid sits over it. It kind of, see there? I worked plain row before I did the braid on this one, and it does not notice at all. In fact, it actually makes it much, much neater. So don't skip that step. It's quite an important step to work a plain row first, or plain round, sorry. The next thing you're going to need is, whoops, excuse the yarn tangle here. I've got these, I love these short tips, but they can be a bit curly. You need a smaller needle to work the actual braid in. Only the braid, but you do need a smaller needle. So I use 2.75mm needles for this. I'm going to use 2.25 to work the braid. Now, the lateral braid does end up being quite saggy for just about everybody I know that's used it. So going down a needle size helps neaten up the braid. It removes this extra kind of like plain row underneath it. It helps give it more stretch, and it minimizes the plain row that you are left with afterwards, so you can go straight into the pattern. And there's loads of stretch there. That chain is, you know, plenty loose. So again, don't go with a same size needle, go with a smaller needle to make sure that your braid works out exactly how you want it to be. If I start swearing at my circular needles that are getting tangled, I do apologize. So I'm going to try not to. Today's not been a good filming day. So having worked one, actually I need to knit that stitch there because that's the last stitch of that round there, because the round starts on the knits, and so the pearls were the last one worked. So what I need to do to get this braid started is I'm going to need to slip that stitch over, and that is actually going to be the stitch as we work it that forms the chain all the way around, because we work the needles, we work the stitches that stay on the needle and the chain at the same time. So let's see if we can show you this as clearly as possible. This needle tip might get in the way a little bit. Let's see if I can put that down there and keep it out of the way. What you are going to do is you are going to knit into the back of the loop of the, so this stitch was the last one worked on the last round, and we've popped it back over to this needle. We are going to knit into the back of the next stitch. And then we are going to knit that stitch that we slipped over, and then we're going to pull them both off. And you can see there's a little chain that's been formed at the front. We then put that stitch back on. We knit into the back of the next stitch, pull it through. Say it's a little bit tight to start with, there you go. And then you knit into the front. What that needle does on to get in the way of that last stitch work there. Pass that back over, knit into the back of the next stitch, pull it through. See, it's starting to get a little bit easier now. Knit into the front of the stitch that you put back. You pass it on over, into the back, knit, come through, knit that stitch again that you passed over, take them both off, and you keep doing this until you go all the way round, until you get to the end. It'll take a little bit of practice, especially the first couple of stitches, because they're a little bit fiddly, because especially if you're working on short circulars like I am, that needle likes to get in the way. But all you've got to remember is that you are knitting into the back of the stitch that's second in, and that stitch that's at the beginning of the needle will be the one that's continuously passed back to the left hand needle, because that's the one that we are creating this chain along the front with. Knit into the back, and then into the front again, pass that back over, knit into the back, then knit into the front, pass that back over, and then you keep going like that, and you can see the chain forming And you can see how that plain row that you put in there, or plain round, sorry, has disappeared. Now I'm going to stop here. I'm going to go off camera and work this all the way around until we get to the end, and then I'll show you how to finish it off. Okay, so we have now worked the lateral braid all the way around. It's really nice and stretchy. We can't see that plain row that was worked underneath at all. It's completely gone. And we've been left with a line of stitches ready to go straight into the body for the rest of the hat, which is fantastic. No binding off, casting on, picking up stitches, nothing like that. Now, we started by moving the last stitch worked from that round over, knitting into the back of the stitch that was after it, and then coming round and knitting into the front of that stitch, taking them both off, and then putting that front stitch back onto the needle and repeating that motion. And that's what created that chain all the way around. And what we have left here, this last stitch, is the last stitch of the chain that was doing the work here. Now, we need to use this stitch and the last V, or sorry, the first V there, to connect this up and close it off in the round. So this is a little bit awkward, I'm not going to lie, but if you take your time and use a nice small enough hook, which I've got a 2.75 here, which is in the range that I've been working with, it is very, very doable. So let me see if I can bring this up to the camera. It's awkward more than anything in your hands, okay? The concept is not difficult, it's the just physical kind of like working out how to do it. So this hook, put it underneath the first complete V of the chain that you worked here. Okay. You're then going to bring it round and you are going to put that last stitch there onto the hook, pull it tight, and very, very carefully pull that stitch through underneath the V and put it up on to the needle. Okay, so that's the first step, and you see we're starting to close it off, but we are not quite done, because if you remember, that stitch that we started the chain with actually belonged over this side, so we need to kind of finish it off. We could just slip it back and say be done with it, and if you do that, that's totally okay. This extra step is an extra step. So if you want to do that, because the last bit seems a bit complicated, that's all right. But you can see it doesn't quite look as finished as we want it to. So let's put that back there where we put it. And we then go in here. So into the top part of that V there. We grab that stitch. Whoop, and we very, very carefully pull it through. And we put it back onto that needle there. And there you have the chain has been finished. So I'll try and see if I can undo that and show you again. So that stitch comes out there, very carefully does it. Let's get another needle out here so that I do not drop anything I don't want to drop. There we go. So that was the last stitch worked that was of the chain, and we need to join it up. So we put a hook underneath the first V on the left hand side, completely under the chain. Okay, we bring our hook around, grab that last stitch, taking care to make sure that all the other stitches aren't going to disappear off your needle while you do this, and very carefully pull the stitch through underneath and pop it onto the needle there on the left hand side. Now, because the stitch that we kind of started the chain with was borrowed from this side, we actually need to end up with a stitch back on this side to put the end of round position back in the right point. You can stop here if you find that the next step is too complex, but I encourage you to try this next bit because this is the really polishing bit. Put your hook in under. So there's the V that we have there. We put it in part way through, not underneath the whole V, just part way in. Grab that stitch, pull it through, and then we very carefully put it back on the end of that needle. See, fiddly. I wasn't fitting. There you go. However, you should be able to tighten that up a little bit. There we go. So not only is the last stitch of the last round before we started the braid back in the right place, but you've actually got a really nice, neat finish there. Look at that. That's fantastic. Now, these stitches that you have here, these will not notice when you go back to working on your regular size needles and you go off to work the rest of your stranded pattern. They will kind of like slink into the braid and won't appear like a plain round of knitting. They will hide away, just like the ones underneath did. One of the reasons that helps that is that smaller size needle for working the braid. But there you have it. Isn't that cool? That nice, neat finish. Look at that. That's lovely. And there we have it. That's how you work a lateral braid in the round. It's pretty cool, huh? Especially that kind of like last extra technique for making sure that your chain remains unbroken without a jog, so it looks all the way around. Those are the kind of like little extra bits that make your knitting look really polished and give it that really refined look without any jogs. It makes your project look so much neater. It's not difficult, it's just maybe new. There's a couple of fiddly bits. I'm not going to lie, when I do my tutorials, I do say this is the fiddly bit, but it's not difficult. It just takes a little bit of practice. And as long as you take your time, and I'm not a natural crocheter. When I use a hook, I'm always awkward. And if I can do it, then I'm pretty sure that most people can. So you just take your time with it, maneuver it around, get it what you want, just do it slowly and it will work for you. I think it's just really, really cool that you can create a horizontal chain around your knitting without all the extra finishing and have stitches ready to go to carry on with the rest of your pattern. I just think that's so clever that you can do that. If you've found this helpful, then please do the like, subscribe and share thing. That would be much appreciated as I'm growing my channel and getting my tutorials out there. And I will be back soon with some more tutorials for stranded colourworks. I'm having a bit of a thing with stranded colourwork right now. Till next time, take care.